Hey, what's up, guys? Tuki here, back again. That's right, we're back. It is another episode of my Montreal Canadiens franchise mode series here on NHL 18. And while we are planning on simming quite a bit of Season 2, let's talk about a couple of things. And honestly, we have to make a few more changes. Nothing major, but let's talk about how the team looks right now, because the last episode was a marathon. And like I mentioned in the description, that might not have been for everybody. I don't expect everybody to kind of make it through that episode. Honestly, I expect some people to skip it and just come to this episode to see what happened with the team. And when you look at our team, for the most part, it's the same, basically. I mean, obviously last year, we signed Jaromir Jagr, so Hemsky sat out. But even if we kept Hemsky, he would have been gone for Season 2 anyway, because you have someone like Nikita Sherbak, who has improved and is simply too good to leave down in the AHL. And then, of course, the only other change is we replaced Thomas Plekanec with John Tavares. So I'd say we're better for the most part. And then obviously, we lost in the Cup final in 7 games, but that's over with. It's over and done with. So offensively, we're looking good. Defensively, it's good. You could certainly argue I should have taken a different approach. Now, the last episode, the entire focus was just get JT and focus on whatever else after the fact. And it is kind of what happened defensively. Of course, we ended up acquiring Robert Bortuzzo. We ended up trading him away. We ended up with Darnell Nurse and Derek Forbort. We also signed Paul Ledoux, who is a top 6 defenseman. The team is in an interesting spot, and like I said, you could argue that we could be in an even better spot, and that I made some mistakes, and I won't necessarily disagree with you. To be honest, the last episode, it's a little bit foggy upstairs. I gotta admit, I was so focused on just keeping this team in cup contention, getting John Tavares, that I might not have made the best moves. But this is the team at the moment. I'm excited to see what can happen. I did say I was going to keep Weber and Petrie as a pairing. Instead, I'm going to go with Darnell Nurse, and we're going to give him the chance on that top pairing with Weber. So that might change throughout the season. The top 6 could change as well, but I did want to have Jonathan Drouin on that top line. Galchenyuk, you could argue, should also be on the top line just so that he continues to develop. But that would mean putting Lehkonen down on the third line to bump up Philip Deneau to set. It'd just be a mess. So for Galchenyuk, we do have him on the top power play. I mean, Galchenyuk, Tavares, Drouin, Weber, and Pacioretty. Certainly interesting. And then that second unit, Hedon, Deneau, Lehkonen, Gallagher, and Darnell Nurse. So I'm excited to see what our power play can do this year. But the other main thing I wanted to talk about, and of course the goaltending, is, we'll see what Charlie Lindgren can do. Like I've mentioned before, Al Montoya did great in the regular season, really blew it in the playoffs. We're going to give Lindgren the chance. We'll see what he can do. Is that a mistake? Possibly. But we saw that Al Montoya crumbled in the playoffs, and that just soured me on him. It really did. But with the forwards, right? Our main goal is still just win the cup at all costs. But a lot of people were wondering, why didn't I trade Andrew Shaw? Why didn't I retain salary? Why didn't I buy out his contract? Same thing with a Shea Weber or a Jeff Petrie. Basically, Carl Alsner, anybody that has a shit contract, why didn't I get rid of them? I just don't want to. To me, that would be a little bit too easy. I think the main challenge I want in this series is to try and win with these guys while they're on this team. And that's why I was so focused on getting John Tavares. This is the focus. We want to win with this core group of players and then somehow go through that rebuild. Now, as far as who's going to be here, you'd like to think Tavares is going to be here. Carey Price is now 31 years old. So we still have a decent enough window. We still have a decent enough window with this team to be competitive over the next few years. So someone like an Andrew Shaw is still valuable, but when it comes to trading away those terrible contracts, I don't exactly want to do that. And it was pointed out, too, that the AHL is awful. Now, of course, the Laval Rocket ended up winning the Calder Cup last year. And that's all well and good. And mainly, it was great for one player in particular, and that was Sherbak. He got that extra bit of playing time, and here he is now on the NHL roster. But some people are wondering why I don't make it a little bit better, right? Because I could easily do that. We could sign other players like a Peter Holland. I want these players to develop because it's these players that will have a chance to play in the bottom six. Think of like a Chicago style of team, basically. I mean, everyone in that top nine, you think they're going to be here throughout the next 4 to 5 years while we try to keep this team competitive? No. We're going to need players like this who can fill those bottom six roles. So that's why we're going with this strategy here and now. So, for example, someone like a Paul Byron, he probably won't be around next year. If one of these players aren't ready, though, we'll probably just sign somebody fourth line specific for one season. But these are the guys that are going to be taking up those bottom six roles in the future. The defense is pretty awful as well. But again, it's about getting players for those bottom, for defense, the bottom pairing unit, and for the offense, the bottom six. I think you guys get the point. However, there is one thing I have to do. I do want to clear up a couple of contract spots. We are technically at 49 contracts. We have a lot of players down in the CHL, back down in junior. So that takes up a lot of contract spots. I did notice, though, 2 of the players who I thought were on AHL-specific deals aren't. And that would be Byron Frais and Antoine Waked. I think it's Waked. It might be Waked. I don't know. But those are 2 guys I would like to get rid of. Again, Gustav Postler could do some damage down in the AHL. I don't think he'll ever make the NHL team. But he's a decent enough player to sign for this season. But it's those 2 guys in particular that I'd like to get rid of here, and we'll keep everyone else. Someone like a Martin Reway, will he ever make the NHL squad? Probably not. But I'm willing to give those guys a chance for now. Again, we do have a lot of players in the CHL. And actually, that does remind me, there may have been a side effect, so to speak, of editing certain players. Now, obviously, Ryan Poehling should still be on this team. He's not. He signed elsewhere. How did he end up on the free agent list? I don't know. But with someone like a Cal Foote, people noticed that it didn't have his draft data, the fact that he was drafted by Tampa and all that up in the top right-hand corner. And I noticed that when I was editing player potentials, is when you edit player potentials, it erases that data. I don't know why, but it does. So I'm thinking maybe there was some kind of side effect with this series to editing certain players, because as it was pointed out, Josh Brooks, Scott Walford, these were guys that were actually, and I honestly didn't think they'd accept that. I'm cool with it. These are guys that were drafted by Montreal, yet we had to sign them from the free agent list. So there may have been a weird side effect to me editing certain player potentials. I'm going to try to run some tests on Twitch, kind of taking a look at it. It may just be the case that I'm not allowed to edit certain player potentials and that it could glitch things out, which would really suck. We'll see what happens, though. It could also be a side effect to me adding certain players into the game. So there are a couple of things I have to test out, but the unfortunate thing, of course, is that we didn't retain Ryan Poehling, who was supposed to be a big player for us moving forward. So that's disappointing, but it's one of those things where it just is what it is, and we're going to have to continue on. And then, of course, Cal Foote ended up signing in Vegas. So certainly some different changes throughout this series, and it hasn't quite panned out as we just lost Shea Weber for a month. Well, that's an absolute disaster. You get the point, though. You get the point. I'll be able to take a look at what's going on and try to make some adjustments and hopefully figure out what the hell the problem is before we move forward, or before like the second round of series for NHL 18 begin. We really need a depth defenseman because I don't want to call up Nudivara or Valiev. I guess we'll call up Juleson? Maybe? I mean, there's really nobody else that I mean, shit. All right, here, you know what? I'm going to call him Niemelainen for a minute. Not saying he's going to play, but he's a healthy scratch right now down in the AHL. So I'm not too concerned about it. My question is, can I sign somebody before our next game? I'm going to leave Niemelainen there. When is our next game? Oh, God, it simmed a little bit forward. Okay. I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to sign anybody. I'm going to have to. I do have the cap space, and of course we cleared out at least a couple of contract spots. So if we end up struggling a bit, waivers could be a factor for us. Obviously losing our best defenseman right now, doesn't really help. And as it is, it's not showing that we have any cap space at all. And that's because we called up Niemelainen. So we are somewhat screwed. Just a little bit. Let's see, if I go defense and affordable, does it show anybody? Right, well, either we call up Noah Juulsen or Marcus Niemelainen plays for the next bit. So let's go edit the lines and we'll call up Noah Juulsen. That was the big fear, for me at least, injuries and how it could affect this team. Because if we run into too many injuries, especially on defense, we are in a very, very bad spot. But that was the side effect to still going after Juulsen or not Juulsen, to still going after Tavares. Yeah, I should just call up Juulsen because he can't be lost to waivers. We'll see if the strategy pans out, is all I'm saying. Again, Jesus, God, do I really want to go? You know what? We're just going to give Juulsen Weber's minutes, and we're going to see how it goes. At least on the special teams. For the moment, we'll drop him in favor of Petrie and Ledoux. But he'll be playing with Carl Alsner, so we'll see how well that goes. But defensive depth is certainly a question. It's going to be tested. It's already being tested so far this year. We'll give Niemelainen the spot on that top pairing. Do we have all? Yeah, we have all lefties on this team. And then we'll drop him down with Simon Bork. Yeah, we'll give Cale Fleury the extra time. So already defensively, we are being tested. Let's see, though, if we can survive this early scare. And we have 5 points in 4 games, which isn't exactly ideal. And the fact is, this could easily backfire on me. The team that we've put together, you guys know how the sim works at this point. You never quite know what's going to happen. You never quite know when your team that has a champions tag is going to, fail and just not be that good. So we'll wait and see as to how much success we are going to have this season. But for the most part, it does depend on our players staying healthy. Again, particularly Shea Weber. Good thing is he'll be back here any day now, maybe even right about now. Hey, there we go. Okay, so Weber is back. Thank God. How'd Juulsen do? Yeah, he put up 1 point and he was a plus, or not a plus player, but he wasn't a minus player, which is probably the most important thing. So let's get Weber back in there. How's Darnell Nurse doing? Not too bad. Jeff Petrie is struggling so far, which is disappointing. Again, I was going to put him with Shea Weber, but I wanted to reverse that. We'll keep an eye out on Jeff Petrie. I need to remember to hit the right buttons. Easier said than done. All right, so Juulsen back down to the AHL. Thank you, buddy, for your effort. Now, I do have some cap space to be able to sign a depth player, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. All right, offensively, we're good. 6 points for Pacioretty. I just want to see how everyone's doing. Top line's doing well. Second line's doing well. Third line, all right. Point total-wise, Shareback struggling a little bit. But he's waiver eligible, so he's not going anywhere. He is pretty much stuck there. The only thing we could really do is put him on the fourth line and bump up Paul Byron. But too early to do that. We're still going to give him an opportunity. So Niemelainen will be scratched again. And more than likely, midway through the season now, Valiev and Nudivara are two players who could be third pairing guys for us at the NHL level. But we could also just find replacements at any given time. So a different strategy, if this team continues to be terrible, is to put in Ruinen and Niemelainen and give them the opportunity and just go all out with the youth players. Did I manage to break the game? No, I didn't, but damn if I wasn't scared that I did. My God. All right, so a little over 1 month into the season. We're just about 6-4-2 record. Okay, well, we'll keep moving forward. Shea Weber's back, so we'll see if that leads to good things. Again, did the game freeze? What is up with this? Did the game freeze? The game froze. All right, we're back. Take two. Let's hope the game doesn't freeze on me this time, right? That would be great. Somehow, some way, I always find a way to break this game. Let's hope that doesn't continue, because that's somewhat annoying. But at the very least, we're still in the same spot. Shea Weber is healthy, and we'll see what this team can do moving forward into Season 2. Now, as far as the stopping point goes for this episode, I'm thinking just before the trade deadline. It's probably the best way to go if we actually need to make moves, which, much like last year, and no, I swear I won't have a 40-minute episode where I only make one trade, but much like last year, we're probably going to need a depth player. I just don't know who that would be. Now we have hit a little bit beyond the halfway point of November. We're up to 11-6-3. The Laval Rocket have turned it around a little bit too. Like I said, I was hoping waivers would kind of be a factor. Hasn't really been a thing yet, as Tavares has 15 points in 20 games. Is he going to hit the 63 goals he had last year? Probably not, but as it stands, we are currently in second place in our division. We have a game coming up against the Bruins. And right now, before I forget, I was going to do this before the game crashed. Let's see what depth defenseman we could bring into this team. Now, you might be saying, well, Kevin Bieksa, obviously, but I don't want to pay him the full amount. Plus, he'd just be sitting there and he'd get pissed off about it. So, I think, who the hell is this? Michael Gulassi. Never heard of you. We got Patrick Seeloff as an option, Peter Granberg, Simic, Keaton Ellerby, Michael Koska, Thor himself, Dylan DeMello. I might have to go with Seeloff. I'm worried that he might injure somebody in practice or during a scrimmage, but I think he might be the best option. I mean, he's just a flat-out physical player, not that great defensively, not that great with the puck either, so that's not quite ideal. Justin Falk, again, just a decent defensive D-man. Same for Mark Fane and Nick Schultz, Keith Ollie. Gulassi, I mean, he's more of a defensive guy. I mean, he's not a terrible two-way defenseman. To be honest, I might not be able to get my pick here of who I would actually like to have on this team. V2 actually is probably the closest. It's going to be him or Kempney, I would say. I might have to go with Michael Kempney. He's listed as a defensive D-man, but the offensive stats are at least somewhat capable. I mean, the big difference in the census category is discipline. I'm going to go with Kempney. I think we're going to bring him in as a depth player for this year. We can sign him to league minimum. And he will pretty much... Yeah, you're expecting other offers, I'm sure. Nice job trying to play hardball. He'll basically just sit there. And hopefully his overall doesn't decline. If it starts to, I could send him back down to the AHL and have him play, and then maybe that way he won't get too pissed off. But let's see what happens moving forward. If he'd sign quickly, that would be nice. Unfortunately, simming from here, it's a little bit weird. As you saw right there, you might have seen it. The calendar took forever to update. Kempney has accepted. Did we beat the Bruins? Calendar, you want to update? Hey, we did. 3-2. Nice. And that puts us 1 point behind Tampa, but they have a game at hand, so we'll have to keep that in mind. Not that I expected John Tavares to score 63 goals, by the way, but it would have been nice. And actually, you know what? It might just be worth putting in Kempney now. It might be. I mean, offensive, we're good. Shareback's gone up to a 68. I think, at the very least, Peter Holland's getting a little bit aggravated. So I think we might just go best overalls on these top lines, just to keep some of these players happy. I was a little bit worried about that. Some players potentially complaining about not getting a ton of ice time, but we'll do what we can. Not that I want to have Will Bitten on the fourth line. I'll put Ikonen down on the fourth line, I guess. And we'll see how this looks moving forward. So let's get this all set up. Looking good. I'll have Holland as the center. So we'll see how that goes. And then defensively, do I want to take out Cale Fleury? I don't think I do. But I kind of have to. I mean, it's the only way to get Kempny into the lineup and to keep him happy. So let's go for it. Let's go with, let's see, he's a lefty. Not that it really matters at this point, but there we go. That's how we'll set it up. We get Michael Kempny in there, and we'll see how he can do. And like I said, hopefully we can manage to get somebody else, basically an improvement on Kempny off of waivers. That's really what I'm hoping for. It just depends on the guy's price, really. But let's keep going. Let's keep moving forward. We'll see how we can do. We're doing all right. Let's go to the middle of December, December 15th, and we'll see how things are working out at that point in time. Postler's still complaining about ice time. Glad to see he's going to be difficult about it. Literally just put him on the top line instead of the fourth line to keep him happy, and he's complaining, so that's great. We have lost at least four in a row. So much for the positivity there. No, that's great. No, I love it when I'm like, hey, we're doing all right. Let's see how we're doing in a couple of weeks. And then we just start losing game after game after game. So that's always a positive sign. The Laval Rocket are doing better than expected, but still pretty poorly. We beat Dallas 9-1. Jesus Christ. Max Pacioretty goes down to injury, out for just over a week, if I'm not mistaken, which again sucks, but isn't the end of the world. We'll call it Peter Holland because I'm not afraid to lose him to waivers. So, again, to avoid having to edit the power play lines just over and over again, I'm actually just going to flat out replace Peter Holland, or I'll put Peter Holland into Pacioretty's spot, although why did it not fill out the 3-on-3 lines? If I replaced him in every line, that's pretty dumb. All right. I guess I'll just put Holland there, and then I'll have to replace this. What? Did I not hit every line? I must not have hit every line. Shit. Oh, well. I'll be able to do it once Patches is back. That's good. So let's see. No, damn it. Oh, God. We're falling apart, guys. We're falling apart. Here it is, the beginning of the end. We're falling apart. Scratched players. Brohl, Veilleux. I guess we'll put in David Brohl. That's an unfortunate sentence. Oh, yeah, we'll put David Brohl onto our team. No offense to David Brohl, but, he's a grinder. That's all. He's a grinder. All right, so the team is looking good with the exception of the fact that since Holland can play center, that gives us a somewhat advantageous situation where we can potentially go with something like that. Again, Byron can't play center. Charlie Hudon can, though. So we're gonna do that little setup right there. Byron, Hudon, and Sherbak, Holland, Shaw, and McCarron. Looks good. So we'll see how Galchenyuk does on that top line now. And we're going to move forward again. It's only for a week or so. Only a couple of games between now and then. So we'll go ahead and sim up to the point where Pacioretty's 100%. Maybe we'll just sim till Christmas for the sake of a decent stopping point. We'll scout defenseman for 2 weeks, and we'll see what's happening. So we're starting to turn it around. Pacioretty's 100%, which is good. Now I could leave Holland scratched, or I could try to send him down. And at this point, it might just be worth leaving him as a healthy scratch on this team and not losing him. So let's go ahead and change all of this back. Beautiful, which means the AHL team is pretty much good to go as it is, although, god damn it, they're so bad. Postler is a depth forward, which would explain why he's not happy, I guess, but oh god, that team. Again, I had two different approaches. I could go for the still somewhat competitive Laval Rocket, or the let's just develop some of these players and they're going to be absolutely terrible Laval Rocket. Here we are. So let's take a look at the standings really quick and our lines just to see some of the progress. We are currently in fourth place. It is a three-way tie for second, though, with 42 points, although Buffalo and Tampa both have 2 games at hand on us. We are 3 points back of Florida, Still too early to call it. Way too early. I mean, even Detroit on 37 points, they are not out of it. They're only 8 points back of the Panthers at this point. I almost called him our new captain. He's not yet. He probably will be at some point. John Tavares, 26 points in 36 games. Isn't terrible, but it's not quite what we needed. Again, Pacioretty missed some time, so he's doing all right. Drouin's doing okay, but you would think, though, for someone who put up 62, I was saying 63 earlier, but 62 goals, 98 points, you would think he'd be closing in on the 30-goal mark at this point, especially when you're playing with someone like Jonathan Drouin and Max Pacioretty. But it is what it is. Lehkonen, 17 points, isn't terrible. Galchenyuk, Gallagher, Charlie Hudon, a little bit disappointing point total there. So we definitely have some players that need to step it up. Darnell Nurse is doing all right. That second pairing is looking decent with Forbort and Petrie. It's just a matter of some players underperforming at this point. I guess the big question is, how's Carey doing? .928 save percentage. Unfortunately, though, Lindgren, in his few appearances, just hasn't been able to get it done. .887 save percentage, and it looks like his career as a Hab is going to be highlighted by that one series because it hasn't looked good since then. And you talk about who is down in the AHL, you have Foucault, who has the same role, is a year younger, and you have McNiven as well, so I don't exactly want to take a spot from either guy, even though McNiven's struggling. But I mean, you can't really blame him. Look at what he's playing behind at this point. So I guess we can keep Lindgren for a little bit longer, but not for much longer. I mean, he has to turn it around. Again, he's only had, 4 appearances? So we'll have to keep an eye on him. We're probably not going to sim too much further into this. Maybe to February 1st. Maybe that'd be a good stopping point. That would leave us a little bit of time before the trade deadline it would leave us a month before the trade deadline to make any moves that we have to make. And again, trust me, this entire time sitting here watching our AHL team struggle, it hurts a little bit. I mean, if you've watched series of mine in the past, you know, especially after rebuilding Hockeytown, that I like my I like my AHL team. I like my players to do well, but I like my AHL team to be successful. I don't like having a really bad AHL team. I like them to be winning games. So to have them go from Calder Cup to absolutely terrible, it hurts a little bit. Speaking of absolutely terrible, it's good to know these guys are 100%. You didn't even tell me to take them out. I don't need to edit the trading block, but another 3-game losing streak there. At least we did pick up the pity point against Florida, but we did lose to Edmonton not long after that. So, admittedly, at 22-17-5, we are not doing as well as I would have thought. There's a waiver claim, Mika Salamaki. 2 years, $1.3 million. I mean, he's a decent fourth liner, but I'm going to have to pass. That's not quite what I'm looking for, and really he doesn't have a spot at this point in time. January has not been too kind to us. Back-to-back wins against St. Louis and Minnesota. We get another one against Carolina. We have 2 more games here in January before we hit that February 1st stopping point. And I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, we're definitely going to have to try to identify the problems. I haven't changed the lines basically all year, and it could boil down to that. But at this point, we have a 26-19-5 record. The Laval Rocket have battled back a little bit, but let's be honest, they're just not going to be that great. We are currently 1 point back of Ottawa. They are in a wild card spot. We also have a game in hand. We are 7 points back, though, of the Buffalo Sabres, equal in games. So we are a little bit off the pace, as you would have expected, which again is tremendously disappointing. 35 points for Tavares in 50 games played. Let's take a look here, though. So Max Pacioretty has 30 points this season in 48 games. Like, that's not terrible. He has a career high of 67. So he's slightly off pace of, hitting that, which, I mean, he's not going to be playing the full season. So he's having a bit of a down year, to be honest. Tavares obviously just isn't going to be able to match what the hell he did last year. Jonathan Drouin up to 34 points. Last season he had 67. He had 33 goals last year. He has 8 so far this year. That is a big problem. Now you could argue it's because he's not the main man on the top line anymore. I mean, he wasn't last year though anyway with Pacioretty. Perhaps just something as simple as swapping he and Drouin as far as what side they're on, rather than, say, bumping somebody down to the second line. Although, speaking of the second line, Artturi Lehkonen, right now, 21 points in 50 games. You would hope for better now that he's on the second line. You would hope for better. I mean, last year he had 35 points, so he's on pace to hit that, but he's in an improved role this year. And he's not quite getting the job done, like I said, that you would hope for. Galchenyuk with 35 points is doing well, and you could still argue he might be better on the top line. And Gallagher, perhaps the most disappointing player so far, hit a career high of 51 points last year, 26 goals, 32 games to go. He's only halfway to his point total, and he only has 9 goals. So, Jonathan Drouin, Gallagher, Pacioretty, Lehkonen, these are underperforming players. And even Tavares, that's an underperforming player when he hit 98 points last season. So, I'm a little bit nervous here, admittedly. Charlie Hudon, only 15 points. He hit 35 last year. What's going on? Like, what is going on? What's with the struggles right now? And does he have power play time? I think I gave a power play. Yeah, he has power play time. He has power play time. There's no excuse. Every player in that top 9, aside from Sherbak, has power play time. So there's nowhere to hide. There's no excuses to be made. I mean, Sherbak right now has 12 points, which is a little bit disappointing on the third line. But because you look at what Charlie Hudon did last year, 35 points. I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't know. And then Philip Deneau has 19 points, which isn't bad. Of course, he was a playoff hero. He hit 39 points last year. Already has more goals. But it's tough to say what approach we should take here. Paul Byron, only 13 points. Admittedly, somewhat being wasted on that fourth line. Andrew Shaw is doing okay. McCarron's doing all right as well. But we have some underperforming players, and obviously the main thing to do would be different line combinations. It's just a matter of what. I mean, we could reunite the third line of dreams from last season to see what they could do. We could bump up, whoever the hell we wanted, really. We could go with, say, Pacioretty, Tavares, Gallagher, Drouin, Galchenyuk, Sherbak. You could argue why put Sherbak, on the second line, but again, that third line for us last season was great. So we could go with something like that. I know the concern was, have Jonathan Drouin on the top line so that he develops, but he's not quite underperforming this season. He's still doing all right, but will he hit 67 points again at this current pace? He might, but you want better from him because last year he wasn't playing with John Tavares. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. What line combination should we go with? Should it be something like this? Would you would you go with something like this instead? Although, again, the issue is nobody here. Actually, Sherbak can play center. He can play center, so we could go with something like this. We could drop Sherbak down to the third line. In fairness, we could drop him down to the fourth line. But I think you'd rather give him the opportunity rather than a Paul Byron, would you not? So let me know what you think. We do have options. as far as potential centers go, Galchenyuk, Tavares, Drouin, Sherbak, Deneau, Charlie Hudon, there are options. So let me know what you think we should do there down in the comments below. Darnell Nurse hasn't done much offensively. He's at least a plus player. You have Shea Weber at 20 points. Derek Forbort's doing better than I would have thought. I mean, defensively, I really have no complaints. I mean, the lowest plus-minus is a -4 for Carl Alsner. And Paul Ledoux is at least all right. I mean, we don't really have that big-time point-getting defenseman, which you could argue is a bit of a problem. The closest thing we have to that is a Shea Weber. But all things considered, I really don't think you can blame our defense. You could argue different combinations. We know that Weber and Petrie did really well for us in the postseason. So again, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And then Carey Price is still doing well. .928 save percentage. 5 appearances for Charlie Lindgren. I would say he gets the rest of this month to prove himself. Hopefully he can get that save percentage above a 900. But not all that impressive. In fairness, he's not going to play much. We have Carey Price. It's just, can Carey stay healthy? And last postseason, he was unable to do that, and that's when Charlie really stepped up. And then again, down in the AHL, I mean, it's a bit rough. I mean, we do have auto-rotate goalies on. So I'm not sure why it's literally only playing... Actually, we don't have it on. That's why Lindgren hasn't played that much. And that's why McNiven hasn't played that much. I completely forgot that we turned it off. 100% forgot that we turned it off. I mean, we turned it off. Did I go to the... Yeah, I went to the wrong spot, right? Yeah, it's in the other settings. Is it gameplay sliders? No, it's not. It's in the other settings. What the hell? I turned it off during the postseason because when we were going with Charlie Lindgren, it of course kept putting Al Montoya in goal. So to avoid that, we turned off auto-rotate goalies. So that is a pretty unfortunate mistake. It's nothing too crazy, right? Because with the NHL team, that just means Carey Price has been playing game after game. It's not like there's a stamina system like there is in a FIFA. And then down in the AHL, I mean, it may have technically hurt McNiven's development, but overall, it's not too big of a deal. He's medium fringe, so he'll get to play a bit more here towards the end of the season. And now, absolutely, in the month of February, we'll see how Lindgren does. So I'm sure some of you are screaming at me, like, oh, you forgot to do this. I'm sorry. I forgot. It happens, though. Like I said, it's not the end of the world, and we'll have some players catch a little bit of a break. As far as player development goes, we've seen some bumps in overall down in the AHL, which is nice. Again, it's a difficult strategy to take because I would like this team to be competitive, but we have to keep moving forward, and we need these guys to get to that bottom 6 level. And we'll hope that they can continue to do that. Again, it might be worth... I mean, it would be nice to get an extra forward. It really would be. I mean, Peter Holland's sitting here on the main team, just scratched, just hanging out in case of injury. But guys, I think that will pretty much do it for this one. It ends on an embarrassing note with me forgetting that I turned off auto-rotate goalies. But as compared to some other series, not a big deal. The main question is, what do you think we should do? Let me know. What should we do with this team? Again, we're right there. We're in the playoff mix. We're not quite, at the head of the pack like we were last year. Buffalo, for some reason, I mean, they just have it figured out, apparently. But we're not too far off the pace. We're not the Detroit Red Wings sitting in last with 49 points. So things are still looking okay. The question is, has the levee broken for trades? And I guess you would say yes. Ryan Ellis sent to Carolina for Connor Roberts and Alex Nedeljkovic. And Colorado gets a second-round pick for Henrik Sedin in the 7th. So Henrik Sedin in Nashville. All right, they trade Ryan Ellis, but brought in Henrik Sedin. What the hell is going on in Nashville? So based on your feedback in the next episode, we'll take a look around the league at the trading blocks. And again, we'll see if we can work out any sort of deal. I don't even know if we necessarily have to. It might just be trying to get a little bit more squad depth as we head towards the playoffs. So guys, I hope you did enjoy. It's been an interesting one. Hopefully the players that are underperforming heading into the next episode can turn it around. Maybe we can compete for that division title at the very least. Get to the playoffs, because you never know what will happen once you are in the dance. I thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you know what you have to do to support it. Leave a like and subscribe. We have picked up a ton of momentum recently here on the channel, and it is greatly appreciated. I thank each and every one of you. Whether you've been following me for the past 2 years, or you're new in this and the Hartford series, or the first 2 series of mine that you're watching, I appreciate you regardless. I will say as well, links are in the description below to my Twitter and Twitch. Twitter it's worthwhile to follow me, I'd say. Updates as to when I'm streaming, updates as to when videos are posted. And on Twitch, it's a lot of fun over there, man. And we're approaching 5K follows, which is a pretty damn big number, considering it's only been 3 months. And I will say, too, a video went up on the channel yesterday, it was the start of my NHL 3's circuits campaign, call it what you will. It's a co-op campaign, a co-op circuit playthrough with my buddy the Crease Police. I really liked making that video. It was a lot of fun. I got to go back and do a bunch of just stupid things. Editing-wise, I had a lot of fun with it. If you haven't given it a shot yet, go check it out. Let me know what you think. And until next time, guys, have a good one. Take it easy. I'll catch you later.